Well, all right, folks. We are here again with another breakdown episode, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited tonight because, well, in the way of full disclosure, first of all, my name is Martin Anaya, and you are watching the breakdown. Sometimes I get ahead of myself because I'm so excited about the subject matter, and tonight's no exception. Recently, as you know, we just finished the Sacramento Film Festival Summer Edition. We'll have another thing going on in the later in the fall. Actually, our winter schedule will be coming out in December, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna have a lot of fun stuff. But at the film festival, the summer version, we did a thing called the Digital Odyssey Conference. And in that conference, the idea is that we're discussing all things filmmaking and all things filmmaking as it relates to the challenges in the current environment. So, as we're taping today, as this podcast is going out live, we're in late August, soon to be September of 2023. And what's the big thing that everybody's talking about? Of course, it is the actors' strike. And I was even thinking, like, if somebody looks at this in years from now, it might be a good little time capsule of what was going on right now and the kind of the issues that we're grappling with AI and all of the issues that are on the table for actors and writers. Well, we are fortunate because in the film festival, we had a gentleman by the name of Galen Howard. And if you're watching right now, chances are that you're watching because you know that Galen Howard has been a star of many, many, many shows, small little movies, big movies he's been in, and also big things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the Book of Boba Fett. On and on we could go. But Galen, of course, is originally from the Sacramento region, Davis, California, to be specific. So all of our Norcal people, hey, big up. Well, what happened was we had Galen at the film festival, and the plan was to do a one-on-one so that we could really kind of pick his brain about what it's like to be a working actor, just kind of generally speaking, but also specifically in this particular environment. Like I said, in this little capsulated bit of time that we're living in, where, let's face it, most working actors, SAG-AFTRA working actors, aren't doing too much work right now because of the strike and because of the work stoppage. So we're going to learn a little bit about why that is, what the causes for that are, and then hopefully we can find out a little bit about Galen, about his technique, maybe find out a little bit about who he is for the benefit of you actors out there. And for those of you who are producers, directors, grips, gaffers, whatever, guess what? We think you might get something out of it. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring him on, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Galen Howard. And hey, brother, how's it going?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
It's good, man. And again, I want to apologize to you because in the film festival, we were originally trying to bring you on a one-on-one.
Right.
We had too many people and not enough time, and it got late. It started late.
Right. Well, no. It got pressed for you're always racing against the clock and usually losing in the.
Definitely. And in this,
I think everyone has that experience to
absolutely.
So I'm excited that we kind of can kind of have a little expand on kind of the things that we started last weekend and kind of take it from there. Which
I just felt like we didn't obviously have enough time to really talk to you and kind of get so let's do that, and if we could, let's just start with just a little bit, because I know we had you on once before earlier. About a month and a half ago. But again, that was also, we were kind of had multiple guests. But tell us about yourself. Are you born and raised in Davis, California?
That's correct. Born and raised. Grew up in that area. Started acting at a young age, I think, and took any opportunity I could in that region. It was mainly a lot of community theater, any opportunity I could get. And then and then was gradually, anytime the film community that was kind of burgeoning at the time, was taking any opportunity, the kind of the folks that have the folks that have come out of that, the folks that were, kind of getting recognition at the time, people like Ryan Todd and Ryan Finnerty and other people like that, were the folks at the Trash Film Orgy, folks like that. I was taking any opportunity to get in front of the camera, even if the only thing on set was a camera, I would get in front of it, because if all they could afford was a camera of any kind, that was good enough for me. So, yeah.
I love it. Now, prior to getting on set with film stuff, you said that you were doing a lot of stage stuff. Let me ask you this. What was the impetus? What was the bug? How did you get bitten by the acting bug? Was there any particular event that you went, hey, you know what? I want to do this for the rest of my life?
I think it's I think as a lot of actors and artists can relate to. I was kind of an awkward kid. I was very sensitive. I really felt things, deeply. I wasn't like especially, athletic, or, the kind of things that, that kids usually gravitate toward like that. It was really hard for me to kind of connect with other, with my peers and that sort of thing. And, and I was also like a lot of kind of artistic sensitive kids, I would get teased, bullied, that sort of thing. And, you feel, it's a very minimizing experience for anyone growing up. And so I think to have the experience of, I think whenever it was, I think, if you're in class and they have and there's some kind of acted out kind of thing, like let's do a skit or something. Let's do let's have the kids get up there and do this or that. Then it's, that was the first time that I really had the opportunity to, really feel like I was, I could really, express myself and be heard. And oh my God, people are actually listening. People are responding. People are laughing not at my expense, but because of my talent, because of the effectiveness of what I'm saying and doing. You feel a control, and it's it's liberating for for a kid, and it was liberating for me to make that discovery of I feel effective, I feel useful, I feel it's everything kind of aligns at that point.
Yeah. Folks at home, if you are just tuning in, we're talking to actor Galen Howard, who, among other things, has recently took turns in the Book of Boba Fett, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And by the way, I've seen you in a host of other things. You've really started to catch fire here in Hollywood, and we're going to certainly talk about some of those experiences and about the current experience. But if you're watching at home,
Speaking of things catching fire, we're watching the whole industry go up in fire right now. So
well, let's hope not. But
yeah,
but folks at home, listen, if something moves you, or if there's a question that you'd like to ask, I've got a little chat here, and I'll be happy to take your comments. Now, if you're watching us on our website, that's actually a YouTube embed. So if you click on it, you can pull that out and you can see a little sidebar. So wherever you're watching us on, look for a little sidebar where you can actually type in comments and or questions, and I'll try to relay those into the conversation. But so Galen, so I could see as a little guy, you were the kind of kid who for whom you discovered a talent, and you discovered the ability to move people, and that you got turned on by that.
Yeah, I mean, I always had a very active imagination, gravitated towards telling stories and that sort of thing, and having that structure to do that is just so so inspiring. It's that kind of light bulb moment of there used to be all the possibilities.
Well, and I can imagine where that leads a person. But what got you, or was there an opportunity, or what got you? How did you get into the film part of it? I could see stage play stuff
For
because
sure.
I could see where the opportunities would exist, but and how old were you, and what got you kind of going into the film direction?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because especially, when you're in a and, when you're in any kind of smaller town, like, outside of the main industry, points, yeah, there's those things are limited. I mean, I mean, when I was a teenager, I mean, once I had discovered acting at that point, but I was also getting really excited just about about movies, and getting excited about how they were made, and writing writing scripts and all of that. I mean, the whole other aspect of of telling of telling stories. And
I think that happened for me too, and I can tell you
right,
that in my own experience, it literally, and I'm dating myself here, but it was literally the movie Star Wars. I thought when I was a little kid, I thought I wanted to be an actor. My dad took me to every movie, but then when I saw the movie Star Wars, I got more into the other aspects of filmmaking. Was
right.
there a seminal moment for you, or was there a film or a series of films that maybe you were like, you know what, that's it, man, that's the one for me? Or was
Interesting.
it just kind of
Yeah,
a combination of different kinds of experiences?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I there were um there were certainly, I mean, because I love, I would always love going to the movies. But there were, um, mm, I think, and certainly seeing films, seeing having that moment of like, not only do I love watching movies, but oh, could see myself doing that. I mean,
Mm.
I think certainly, I mean, as an actor, I mean, I think, kind of when I was coming of age, like, 10, 11, 12, like, things like, like Jim Carrey in The Mask was
Oh,
one
for
of
sure.
was
Oh, yeah, I could see
yeah,
that.
I was, like 11 or 12 when that came out. So something, yeah, a movie like that, which I gotta say still holds up to this day as kind of a,
The classics often do. That's right,
yeah, but,
yeah.
I mean, as one that's kind of, you don't necessarily think of that as, you don't kind of raise that up in the pantheon, but it's an incredibly effective film, and I
What are
think
you
it's
talking about? It's Citizen Kane, The Mask,
The
and,
Mask, Ace
Gone with the
Ventura,
Wind, and yeah,
Happy Gilmore, right? Yeah, yeah. Porky's,
Porky's is in there for sure.
yeah,
Definitely top 10.
yeah. Um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think things like that, and especially when you see a film like that that is about a sort of underdog character rising
Yeah,
up and getting the opportunity to to be heard and respected and that sort of thing. That's very, for a kid who's kind of kind of awkward and bullied. That's a movie like that is really inspiring. Is really
yeah.
kind of captures your attention, and your imagination.
Oh, sure.
So stuff like that. And then when I got a little older, as a teenager, was really kind of getting more into film, and some of the classics, the films of Hitchcock, the Coen brothers. Coen brothers were a big inspiration for me.
Something about the Coen brothers dialogue, isn't it? That's just delicious to say. I
Oh
would
yeah,
imagine as an actor, I would
yeah.
imagine that just speaking Coen brothers lines would be a treat, a real treat.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, yeah, because because they're folks that really kind of, I mean, whether it's, yeah, the, heavy drama, or the kind of, or the broader comedy, it's like, yeah, their dialogue is so distinct. And, I mean, I remember,
Well,
I mean, one,
particularly wordsmithed.
oh my God. I mean, yeah, they're so literate. I mean, they're some of the few that are like very, like, still just so literate in their work. I mean, it's, like, in, like, you can just, you can read their screenplays like a novel. It's
I remember the remake that they did of True Grit, I think it was.
superb. Yeah.
And I just remember going, wow, this was nothing like the original. I remember when I was a
Right.
kid, I saw the
Right.
original with John Wayne
Because it wasn't a remake of the movie. It was a retelling of the novel.
of the novel.
Right.
Right.
They were very distinct about that. But yeah, I remember when when Big Lebowski came out. Like I remember seeing that opening day with my dad, and and my dad and I would go to movies all the time, and so that one was one where because of all that film is so much like breaks the form, and all of the kind of the genre and cultural references they bring in, the bizarre cast of characters. I was just, my moment was like, oh my God, like I didn't know you could do that in a movie. I didn't know. Yeah. And it's like, oh wow, if you can tell stories like that in a movie, like I want in. Like
it was at once so absurd, but then in a strange, odd way held some form of gravitas. There was a little
there
than
Blue and are very emotional, and but then there's a kind of they kind of break the fourth wall, and there's a kind of it's such a an incredible juggling act, that movie. I mean, I think it's just it's
a masterwork again.
That film.
All kidding aside, I'd put that in the top. I don't know, top 10, but definitely up there.
Yeah, it's in my top 10. I mean, I think it's one of those you can say objectively, like, oh, maybe they're similarly and historically, they're films more prominent, but that one for me was very important.
It's your personal top 10.
Well, yeah, definitely
top 10. Yeah, for sure. And Galen, I just this part of I gotta say, this part of the conversation I absolutely love, because when we talk about cinema and the reason that we got into this, because I didn't get into this, and obviously I can see you didn't, with any kind of ideas about getting rich or what have you. I got into it because I purely loved it. So
right, exactly.
That's
I knew, I knew for any kind of like the benefits of taking a more a more traditional vocational path. I mean, I knew that I couldn't wake up in the morning to that. I knew I would, so to me, it was, there was that point of deciding like, yeah, this is absolutely worth the challenge. It's worth, and there's a way, and once you kind of figure out like, okay, like these are the steps to take, and that's always the thing for me, whether it's moving to LA or cleaning my apartment. It's always the challenge is like, okay, what's the first step?
All right, so I got to tell you, we're starting to get a little action here.
Great.
In our chat, random person. I don't know if that's an assignment that YouTube gave them, but random person.
Right. Or if that's like if that's like a Polish name, or
but perhaps yeah, that's definitely Eastern
European. We're not seeing.
Well, hi, random person, and yes, thank you for the compliment. Nice video. Alyssa asked what got you passionate about getting into this field, and I think we're kind of on that track. So thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Sean, the great gamer, says, hi, Martin. Hi, you guys. It's me, Sean Vincent. Hi, Sean. And then Joshua says, what advice would you give to someone who wants to live their dream being an actor and do well? And I got to tell you, that's kind of a loaded question. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take a very short break, and I'm going to let you ruminate on that. We're talking with actor Galen Howard, who was just at the Sacramento Film Festival. He's back in La La Land now, but we've got him here. And if you want to ask a question, just remember you can do that. Just back out of wherever you're at so you can see the chat, so you can ask a question. We'll handle this next question right on the other side of the break. Stay right there. right, we are back, and you are watching The Breakdown. This is a production of the California Film Foundation. My name is Marty Anaya. I'm your host today. We have different folks that come in and host some of our shows. By the way, this ain't the only show that we do. We do another one for actors called the Actors Initiative. Maybe we'll talk Galen into coming back and maybe giving us a little tutorial on that. We are talking with actor Galen Howard today. And before I bring him back on, I just wanted to let you folks know we do a lot of events and a lot of these podcasts and so forth. All of it can be found at californiafilm.net. That's californiafilm.net. And when you go there, the main thing you want to do is you want to join as a member. A lot of benefits to that, none the least of which you'll be able to list yourself in our directory. So when you look at the top navigation bar right in the center of it, you see a thing called the directory. When you click on there, that directory is a resource directory of talent. It's a talent database. And who's the talent? You are. I don't care if you're a producer. I don't care if you're a gaffer. I don't care if you're a makeup artist. That's where you can get listed and find other like-minded people when you're going to make your next project, or maybe when you want to get hired for a project. So go there. It's californiafilm.net. While I'm at it, I'll also tell you that we've got other things coming up. The Cine Latino is coming up in November. That's the Sacramento International Latino Film Festival. And then in December, we're going to be doing, again, part 2 of the Sacramento Film Festival 2023. A lot of surprises on tap for that. But before the break, we'd asked a question. I'm going to bring Galen back in here. Hi, Galen.
Hey.
Welcome back. Now, do you remember that question that we were ruminating on? What was that question?
Oh, yes, about how to get into the how to about following the
how do you do it? And I think we said something in there about happiness or something, but
succeeding and succeeding in that, how to how to do well and succeed in that that profession, in that vocation.
And what are your thoughts on this massive topic?
Right. I mean, that's you.
I mean, you could distill it down into a few moments, right?
Yeah. How do you distill that? I mean, I think I think there's a lot there. Yeah. There's so many offshoots, directions you can come in that. You can work with that. I think the big. I mean, when I moved down to LA, I mean, I was I didn't. I didn't go to I didn't take the university route. I didn't have that kind of immersive experience of being in classes every day, that sort of thing. I was doing I had been doing plays and that sort of thing, so I was getting a lot of valuable experience that way. But I hadn't really had an opportunity to really get to really kind of get into the nuts and bolts of my craft and really kind of really polish it in that way. So really kind of really kind of refine my approach to the craft and to breaking down scripts and getting into character and that sort of thing. I mean, I could do it, but it's like but having that kind of that kind of toolkit. So I mean, when I was my first kind of order of business getting down in LA was getting into classes and really having the experience of just every week, just constantly breaking down, getting into my craft, kind of figuring out kind of what my where my limitations were, and really kind of get to a point where I could be I felt like I could be competitive, because I think it's having, because that's that's an opportunity that not a lot of it's harder to find in smaller markets. Is just people who are being taught by people in the industry, who are currently in the industry, being around other people, having a group of your peers who are also in the industry, and being really kind of immersed in that environment is just, it's different than being taking a college class or what have you, or community class in the community in a smaller town, that sort of thing, just based on the town you're in, the city, the being in the industry. And that was my first real kind of order of business. And then at the same time was also kind of really figuring out how to kind of brand and market myself. I really never had much experience or instruction approaching the business side of this industry. And so a lot of that was, kind of figuring out kind of what your type is, what kind of, they call it branding, like this is, like this is my brand, like just like, say like, you look at an actor like John Hamm, and that's like a very different brand than, say like, than say Jack Black, that's like,
I personally felt that the resemblance for the two of those, it's kind of,
it's like it's like you can't tell that they kind of there's a lot of overlap. Yeah,
it's like, honestly, and I'm trying to think, have I ever seen the two of them in the same room?
I don't think exactly. So. Yeah.
Now wait a minute. Let me ask you, because just to put on there, Sam Brown asks, what advice would you give for people who want to start getting into acting and slash auditions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So add that to the mix. I think I hear you saying you got to get with a good group.
Yeah, and I think and that's part of it is constantly kind of working those muscles, and so you are ready for audition. So when something comes, you're not just kind of like if someone's saying like, oh, there's like a marathon this weekend, and you've just been sitting on the couch for the last 3 weeks,
right? Yeah, eating potato chips and ice cream,
right? So it's like constantly
I do that before every marathon, but I'm just watching them on TV. So
exactly, yeah,
quite different.
Right, exactly. But
but what would you say as it relates to auditioning itself? Because I understand there are whole workshops, and I think probably whole semester long college classes devoted to auditions.
More and more,
yeah. Found to be handy. Bring as much attention to yourself before the audition as humanly possible. Maybe is that?
I think
that you would give.
Yeah, because I think because often people who have just had the experience of doing plays or personal projects, that sort of thing, where you're given the part and you have the time to sit with the part, that sort of thing. It's very different, and you have you have all the material. You can expand and then and then kind of whittle it down, and then wax and wane down to the core. The core elements, and you don't have that luxury with an audition. You're given you're given a few pages that you kind of have to extract the character from, and then the whole plot, and then kind of figure out, okay, what's the why is this character here, what's the purpose of it. And then I think that's the big thing is because when you have the character and you can sit with it, you can really kind of figure out like, oh, what's going on, the history of this character and all that. Yeah. You don't have time for any of that in an audition. You really, what you have to come away with is, why did they write this character? What's the purpose of this? If you took away this character out of the story, what would you miss? And then you figure out, okay, then what am I bringing? And so what's my job? Just like anything, it's like, if you were brought in to be, a line cook, and they were like, well, tell us about your qualifications. And you're saying, well, the history of line cooks is there's a long history to it. And, let me tell you about, and then you'd be out of the room. It's just like, they don't want the broad stroke. They're just like, okay, this is what you want. This is the environment we're in. This is, these are my qualifications. This is what I can bring to you. And that's kind of what you have to do when you're recording, when you're presenting your, the dialogue is, and the character is just like, this is my understanding of the character. This is what I can bring to it. And there you go.
Makes a lot of sense. So we want to talk a little bit more about acting, but I have some questions in here about the current strike and about what we can do. So, folks, we're going to take another little brief break, and when we come back, this will be the third and final part of this show. Hopefully, we'll have many more opportunities to chat, but we want to get into a little bit beyond the technique of it, but also how do you survive with this strike, and what are we even fighting for? So when we come back, stay right there. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk to Galen about some of these issues. We'll be right back. Oh yeah, that is the Sacramento Film Festival. That is the Film Festival of Christmas Past. The Film Festival of Christmas Future, which will actually be happening in the Christmas season, will be the 13th through the 15th of December, and we're going to bring some more stuff for you. In fact, we're going to have the American Screenwriters Conference, which we're very excited. We'll give an opportunity for screenwriters to learn more about their craft in kind of a really kind of a cozy, fun environment, but also going to some screenings and seeing some films and all kinds of cool stuff. Now, if you're just joining us right now, we are speaking with actor Galen Howard, who has had a pretty good run here in Hollywood. He's not done yet, but in fact, he's just getting started, to be honest with you. But already he's racked up some major credits. He's right here from Northern California, and very excited to have him on here. Just before the break, I teased that we had a couple of questions related to the strike and what's going on this current work stoppage. So let's bring Galen back on right here. Hey, Galen, I hope you got a chance to, clear your throat. I don't know if I'm coming down with something. I'm having a hard time clearing my throat today, but it's good to see you. Thank you.
I can't help you with that, just so you know.
Oh, no, please don't.
I can't help you clear your throat.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. By the way, and thank you,
Yeah, just but I wish the best.
Much obliged.
I'm rooting for you.
But I had let me see if I'm gonna actually see if I can bring it up or read it here. Caitlin asks, how can non-actors or writers, because there's two strikes going on,
exactly,
support the strike? And that's her question. But I guess if I could even get a little bit more fundamental with you, even before we get to how they can support.
I think it.
Why are we even striking in the first place? What is this strike about?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's about a number of things. It's about it's about payment and wages, and then it's about protecting our work, our and in some cases our identity from the developing tools of AI, and how the studios and the AMPTP is proposing to use them.
And what are those concerns? Alyssa just asked that. I just saw it, but Alyssa just asked the question pretty succinctly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alyssa. But what are some of those issues as it relates to AI, as you understand them?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of it is taking as a way to cut costs, taking distilling an actor's likeness or an amalgam of likenesses into images that can then into 3D images that can then take the place of background actors, let's say, or in other cases, it can replace an actor in a scene, or can replace or can a way that they can take an actor's voice and replicate the actor's voice. So they could they could take the recording of my voice that they did in the film, and then replicate that for
some future project,
for audio dialogue replacement.
And without you having to be there, and without you having to get paid. Now, I understand that the actor James Earl Jones, who of course famously voiced Darth Vader in Star Wars, has signed some kind of an agreement that I presume allows Disney Lucasfilm to use his voice or a digital recreation of his voice in perpetuity. I would love to see that contract.
I mean, I know, and he's close to 90 years old, and maybe it's I mean, in that case, maybe it's important for him to kind of allow them to continue the legacy, because he does have a very he has a very distinct voice, but
But for the rest of us, though, it seems
the rest of us, no, again, it's like
like a ripoff.
Yeah, no, it's again, there's always instances where it's like, well, yeah, that's fine, but
like when you get your head severed in two, and they don't want to really bring you in for that. I can understand that one.
Right. Yeah. Or I know, like, they were, using, they were taking old, like, they were using AI technology to, separate an old recording of John Lennon, take out the guitar track, and ambient sound to create a new Beatles song. I mean, and that's still like, there's something like that is like there's still an element of creation going on with that. But when you're, and obviously, it allows us to, give, you're giving new life to something that's already there, and that's fine. But when you are creating something, taking the essence of someone else's work, and then distilling that into something new, and not giving those people credit for it, that's where it absolutely crosses the line.
Yeah, and I can see, particular to the writers too, where you feed in, let's say, David Mamet into a computer,
exactly, or
David Mamet
Aaron Sorkin or something like that.
Yeah, and then it spits out an Alan Sorkin or a David Mamet like screenplay.
Yes, like that.
How much of that is plagiarism?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it can do that, and and you could say, like, written in the style of this, or in this setting, or for this for this actor, or what have you. Yeah, I mean, all of that is possible. So it's like, so I
think David O. Russell owes Martin Scorsese some money, if you want to know the truth.
I mean, there's a lot of or
there was one year where what was that, man? He made one movie that was so much like a Scorsese movie that it beat Scorsese's movie.
Right. Well, or he did that movie I Heart Huckabees that was basically like a Wes Anderson kind of.
Yeah.
It was basically Wes Anderson. Yeah. He's
like, but let me add to that. Okay, so we have the AI aspect of it, but let me add to that the other issues of just getting paid for what you did do.
Right. Exactly.
Can you help us understand that?
Yeah, because there's another thing, and I think I had touched on that when I was up in SAC. Like one thing the AMPTP had in their contract was the ability to do a body scan on a performer, or like mainly it was like for like background performers. They would do like you'd get a couple $100 for a 1-day body scan, and then they have your image, a body scan or a head scan, one or the two, and then they would be able to use that, use your likeness in perpetuity. And so that you're basically saying, like, okay, you pay me for 1 day's work, and then you can recreate my.
Then you never have to pay me again.
Definitely, you never have to hire me again.
But also too, what about the work that's
again for my likeness and for my work?
Got it. And that's scary. I think for an actor. I can imagine how it'd be scary for an actor who makes their living or
it's
trying to.
And it's like it's one of those. It's like give an inch. I mean, if we say that if we accept that, I mean, there's no telling how farther will take that.
And so if I add to that the idea about work that's already in the can, meaning that work that's a completed body of work that's out there, it's on whatever, it's on Netflix, it's out there, it's available. It seems as though since streaming, that the residual fees, and by the way, just for clarity, the PTP,
Yeah.
American Motion Picture and television producers of America.
Yeah.
Okay, just so we understand the
Yeah.
jargon. And those are the ones that we're kind of fighting in this, because those are the ones that are getting all these fees and that are proposing all these things with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you could just kind of give us the little primer on what has happened to residual fees. First of all, what is a residual fee, and then what's happened to them since streaming?
Yes, yeah. The residual fees are, it's the payment, based on who, once you're once the film or television program is out there, is on TV, is in the universe. It's based on how on the views of that, on how much it's being consumed and viewed.
And in the old days, it was the holy grail was to, if you were on TV, was to get into syndication,
right?
Because then that would mean that millions of people would see your shows over and over again. And even if you had a relatively small part, let's say you had a walk on Friends or
right, exactly,
or something like that, you could get paid, and then that would help actors and help me out if I'm misconstruing this.
Yeah,
but that would help actors in between gigs. That was the mana.
If you've racked up a certain thing, there are certain actors, they said like the actors on Friends, can live very well just on residuals.
And we're not even talking about the stars.
And we're not right. Yeah. Definitely the stars, but they literally never have to work again. But just on residuals. But other people, and if you've had a number of guest stars, recurrings, if you have at a certain point you've accumulated 50 to 100 TV roles, there's with the with syndication, you can. You can
do okay.
Get in. You can support yourself. You can
support yourself in between.
You can have a cushion. When things are slow. But now the syndication has been replaced by streaming, and that's where all the rewatches come from, is because you can do it at your leisure, and the on-demand viewing, you can people, that's where people are doing their rewatches and binges. They're not watching those things on syndication. They'll watch when they're watching it on when you want.
Yeah, and for some reason, the payout for streaming is not nearly what it was when most shows would live in syndication on cable.
Yeah, well, and that's because
over the air antenna TV.
Right, and that's because it's because the residuals come, the residuals from the views come according to the advertising. It's not just who's watching the program; it's who's watching the commercials. And so 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 it's a matter of so with streaming, it's not a matter of who's about getting about securing the advertisements and the sponsors. It's about it's about securing new subscribing and maintaining the subscriber base.
Caitlin is asking, how long do we expect this strike to go on? That's a $64 question.
Oh my God! Yeah, are we ready for that? Can we jump into that, or?
Please do.
Sure. Yeah. Because there's a lot of that stuff. And I know she had some other great, another great question as well. But we'll get to. But I think as far as just given that, and I'll lead into that saying given what's at stake there. Yeah. And those being the two, AI and the payment, and I'll just expand on that. So it's also the residuals are a thing, and also just the wages of both the writers and the actors. There's I can't speak as educated on the for the writers, but I know they're they're getting they're especially like people in the writers rooms, which is what they call like the group of writers collectively writing on any TV show. And there's kind of a whole tier as far as who's getting paid what on in those rooms. And there's a way that they're being very they can be kind of selective as far as who gets in those rooms, or who gets particular pay and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of
politics, it sounds like.
A lot of politics, a lot of inequity in that. And then for the actors, as far as being able to negotiate our pay and get and also say, for the writers, they're talking about getting their rates haven't improved in years, and they're now talking about reducing their rates by like 10-15%.
All right. So look, Caitlin, the other great question that Caitlin asked is right here. How can non-actors and writers support? What do I do? I'm Joe Paycheck. I'm just going home and watching my Netflix or whatever. What can I do to help?
Well, I will. I'll get to that. I think, I think so. So those, because those are two very good questions. I think, I just wanted to complete that as far as saying like what's at stake here.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's livelihoods at stake. That's what's
absolutely. And I mean, I remember someone saying that someone made the point that I know for actors, when you factor in inflation, and the actors, the salary working actors in television and film haven't gotten a raise in 50 years. And now we're at a point where I think there's so much more work involved as far as being a working actor, as far as the amount of the way that one has to, there's so much more competition. There's so much more that one has to do. Basically, every actor has to be the CEO of their own business now, in a way that they didn't have to 50 years ago. Where you were just, you would get the call. You'd go, you'd read your stuff. There's so much more involved now.
They had you under contract, which basically. You would work or you wouldn't work, but you'd still get some money.
And then navigating the digital world and everything else, you're constantly, fighting for attention, to basically just, reminding people that you exist, and because there's so much noise and
kind of coming at us.
Heard above the noise. Yeah. So with all that said, the two questions, I mean, first, how much, which were two very, very, very important questions. One is how long will it last? And I think, I think the short answer is who the bleep knows. I mean, there's so many things at stake. I mean, I think when you consider that the writers have been on strike since the beginning of May, and they only started talking to the AMPTP in the last few weeks. So it's taken 3 months for us to just reopen the dialogue, and they're meeting, a few hours every week. I think it's going to be a while, and we're still at a stalemate. We're still at a complete stalemate.
And I mean, obviously it goes without saying, but I mean, for those who need the reminder, we're talking about on one side of the negotiation, those people are living pretty good and they're still getting paid, and they have enough money to survive anyway. On the other side of the negotiation, we're talking about the difference between, am I going to eat or not? I mean, quite literally. For a lot of, I think that the and maybe you can speak to this a little bit.
Yeah,
I think that when people think about actors, they think about Hollywood stars. They think about Scarlett Johansson, or they think about, Brad Pitt, or somebody that's making, $1 million plus per project,
Yes.
where one or two projects would have you set up pretty much nicely for the rest of your life. But that's not the lion's share majority of the people who composite a movie, is it?
Correct. Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, I think there. They said that they said that in the when at the at the height of the industry, when the industry is working at full force, I think at any given time it's like less than 1% of the working of SAG members are employed,
let alone making big paychecks.
correct.
So let me ask you, because we just have a few minutes remaining. And by the way, this has been a delight. This is what we intended to do at the film festival.
Correct. And now we're kind of expanding on kind of the seeds we planted there, and this is great.
So thank you, and I appreciate you. So what can Joe Paycheck do to support these actors, many of whom have put their entire livelihoods on the line on this picket line?
Right.
And by the way, not and it bears mentioning, I think that some of the bigger names who may be more insulated, that are on the actor side and on the writer side, they have I think a lot of them have gone in complete all in to support.
Yeah, whether it's
whether
it's donations. Yeah, I mean, I know.
But what can we do?
Yeah, and a number of people have made sizable donations. You've seen, and you've seen, you've seen them, the big stars like Brad Pitt and others, on the picket line with everyone else, and that to me is so inspiring.
I saw Colin Farrell give just a wonderful speech on some. I think it was just on somebody's cell phone, but it went the rounds on social media, and he really broke it down very eloquently. And here's a guy that arguably is pretty well set. But for the rest of us, how can we support SAG-AFTRA? How can we support the WGA, the Writers Union? And how can we support the rank and file members like yourself who are trying to entertain us and educate us and enlighten us?
Right. Well, I think it goes back to, I mean, it starts with education, as the word you just used, as far as being, you keep up to date, keep informed about what's going on in the industry, about and what's keeping if you're curious about it, I really implore everyone to do their research, and it's like, there was a degree, like, when I saw this, approaching even someone in the industry, I realized there was, there's certain things that are, kind of gray for me that, that I needed more, more clarification on. So it's been very educational for me as someone who's been in the industry most of my life. So, I still had ways that I could learn about things I could learn about. So I'd say, for anyone, just you can go to the SAG-AFTRA website or the WGA website. You can, Google, you can do a Google search, there's people talking on podcasts about it. Like, do everything, just kind of, do your due diligence and kind of get up to date as far as, really what's going on. And, I've given kind of a broad strokes of as far as what's at stake here and what's going on. But, just stay up to date with that. And then, I would say, because, it all comes down to money and where you're putting your money. And so, I think I would, I would encourage people to, really kind of think about, after you're doing your research, really thinking about, where your money is going as far as to these streamers and to the studios, and kind of saying, where do I want to put my money right now? And, and it's like, so it's like, that's why, that's why I, applaud, efforts like the SAC Film Festival, is, really bringing out independent film and, those kind of grassroots efforts. I think going to film festivals right now is a great way to support artists, and, putting instead of, going to see the big blockbuster or, watching whatever's, the latest edition on Netflix, going to a festival, going to, a limited release, move independent film, that sort of thing. If there's something, if there's doing your research, if there's an interesting film online, line, instead of, watching whatever's, on the Netflix, renting, some, a little film that you might not see otherwise, and supporting.
And by the way,
those
there are film companies who have signed on to all of the demands. A24, who've made some wonderful movies.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of where you're going to put your money, I mean, if you, and again, I know this takes a little bit of work on the part of the audience, but if you think about, okay, well, who are the companies that actually that were signatories and did sign on to what the unions were asking and said, no, we're not going to use digital copies. We're going to use real actors, or no, we're not going to fail to pay actors when our stuff.
Right. We're going to dollars on the back pay and all of that, and residual agreement and all of that. Yes. And
those are people that I would definitely give my support to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A24, there's, I wish if I was a little bit better prepared, I might have a good list of those, but maybe after this, one of the follow-ups could be to kind of find out.
Definitely.
Because if this thing lasts, because I just put it up there, Caitlin had indicated that the last strike, and I don't know this, but it sounds about right, went for about a year and a half. Okay. And so,
the last time we had a full-on strike was the writers' strike of 2007 2008. That went on 100 days. Which we've already passed for the writers, and I mean, I'm sure we'll pass it for the actors as well. So yeah, it thankfully was not that long, and I sure hope we don't go anywhere near that this time. I mean, I think that, a year and a half.
Obviously, I'm being asked to ask you for a prediction, and you already said who knows.
I mean, the writer's strike started in May. I imagine, I think, I think both SAG and the WGA will probably go at least, a couple more months.
As far as you know, have the SAG negotiators sat down across the table yet? Because as of a couple of weeks ago,
not yet.
They have not.
Not yet.
Here we are in late August, so
yeah. And so because we've been going about 6 weeks now, and about 5-6 weeks, and so yes, it's so we still so we're still kind of fresh into it, but I don't see it going any ending before October, and I could easily see it going into January, unless we see some, we see, some
big time movement.
We see like major, like,
government have to get across the table for one thing.
Yes. Or it becomes an issue of, or the government recognizes it as a statewide crisis and intervenes, if we have like avenues.
Which I have heard some rumblings, but we'll see.
Yes.
Well, listen, I want to tell you, my friend, Galen Howard, it's just an absolute delight to talk to you. Hard to believe that we're almost like an hour into this, but it's been an absolute joy.
I know,
albeit under these trying circumstances. But if you were going to say anything to anybody who might be an aspiring actor who's going to watch, other than maybe stay the course, what would be your words of wisdom for somebody paying attention and watching you right now that wants to follow in your footsteps?
I think and I think gratitude is an overused term, but I think is so applicable to this profession. And the fact anytime you get to do what you love, and and can even put a little towards your livelihood, a little monetary value towards your livelihood, is a blessing, and recognizing is that. And also it's like this industry, where this profession does not exist in a vacuum, and I think it's all about not build. It's all about building relationships. And so anytime you have an audition, you do a you go to a party with other people in the industry, you go to you do a job. Anytime it's all about building relationships. It's not just about that one experience and maximizing that experience in the moment. It's about building relationships in the long term, because we're not always here for a good time, but but we're hopefully here for a long time. So so I'd say
I love it. I love it.
yeah, that's
Well, you know what, Galen, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you, my brother. And you know what? Keep those cards and letters coming. Hopefully the next time you're in town, I can buy you a drink or buy you a meal or both. But maybe I'll see you down there. I have a trip planned here in the very near future.
Tahoe, maybe.
I actually last part of September I am going to be in Tahoe, but definitely would be happy to come down there and visit you. But for those of you who are just kind of like checking this out, you can go back and watch the entire thing. That's the beauty of these things. We'll archive it for you. We'll see how many of our prognostications come true. Let's hope that this thing wraps up. Let's hope that we're wrong and it doesn't go to next year and it wraps up next month. And I'd love to be wrong about that. But Galen, I gotta say thank you, brother. It's been a pleasure to have you. And for you folks at home who are watching, you've been watching an episode of The Breakdown, California Film Foundation. Ask for it by name, accept no substitutes. Until next time, me and Galen will catch you down the road. Thanks, folks. Appreciate you.